Alright, so you're telling me that the guy behind the Raid movies is teaming up with Tom Hardy to deliver me my next big adrenaline-fueled obsession? Well, that's what I thought at least, but unfortunately, this film ended up being a pretty big letdown. Havoc is the new action movie on Netflix starring Tom Hardy, and it follows a jaded cop fighting his way through a corrupt city's criminal underworld to save a politician's son after a drug heist swerves lethally out of control. Now, I'm a simple guy, alright? I see Tom Hardy as the lead character, Gareth Evans as the director, and a story about a criminal underworld, and I'm thinking that we're gonna have an absolute banger on our hands here. I mean, both of those Raid movies are two of the best action films I have ever seen in my entire life. They're pretty much the gold standard if you're a fan of the genre in the modern age. So keeping that in mind, for better or worse, I walked into this film with some decently high expectations given the pedigree of all the people involved. But unfortunately, Havoc just doesn't really have the juice and ends up being a pretty generic action movie experience overall. Now, let's start by talking about the action involved in the movie, because that should really be the bread and butter when it comes to a project like this, but I think that's where my main disappointment lies. Ignoring the introductory car chase that looks like it was ripped right out of Grand Theft Auto 4, there are really only two big action sequences that take place in the film, and I actually enjoyed both of them and thought they were designed pretty well on the surface, but I couldn't help but also feel a little bit underwhelmed. The situations in question take place in a nightclub and a remote cabin. They're both filled to the brim with never-ending ammo clips and henchmen who have worse aim than a stormtrooper. Don't get me wrong though, there are quick snippets of greatness when it comes to the camera angles and kill shots, and the overall vibe of that nightclub scene really is addicting as all hell, but I think at the end of the day, Gareth Evans' special sauce comes out to play when a scene focuses on hand-to-hand combat, and some of that just gets lost in the shuffle when guns are the primary weapon on display. The majority of the fight sequences in the Raid movies are so up close and personal in a way that you just can't really pull off with an Uzi or a shotgun. It's just not the same, brother. When it comes to the story they decided to go with here, what you're gonna find is pretty much just a run-of-the-mill generic drug war action movie setup that actually spreads itself a little bit too thin. When you boil it down, there are four main characters or groups that you need to focus on. All of them have backstories and motivations for doing what they do, and there isn't nearly enough time to dive into all the seeds that are planted along the way while all hell is breaking loose. Obviously, action movies are sometimes known for having pretty generic plots, so I gotta give Gareth Evans some props for at least trying to give us one that has a lot more meat on the bone here, but this film would have been a lot better if either there was 30 minutes tacked onto the runtime to explore all the mentioned relationships, or all of that extra shit was just cut right out to simplify this bloodbath. Sometimes less is more, and when you have a director that's this talented and is looking to show off his action chops in a bit of a different way, it's probably best to lose all the fluff if possible. When it comes to the performances in the film, the biggest draw here is obviously going to be Tom Hardy as our main character. He's pretty much right at home in this role as the brooding cop that's down on his luck, that's forced to crack a few skulls together to get out of harm's way. Outside of that, he's pretty one note with everything that's thrown at him, but it's still fun to just watch him as this character, since he seems to always play badass types with pretty much no effort at all. There are a couple of other notable names that round out this cast, like Forrest Whitaker and Luis Guzman, but the real MVP here is none other than Timothy Olyphant, who seems to be the only one interested in actually going out there and trying to give us some real character depth. He seriously makes everything he's in better, and I'm about ready to start a petition for him to legally have to be in every movie ever made, because the guy is just a national treasure. But I digress. At the end of the day, the action genre isn't really the place to go if you're looking for Oscar-worthy performances, but this film doesn't even really offer up a character or two that I found myself rooting for as the bodies started turning cold. And in a film like this, that's no bueno. Overall, guys, Havoc is a serviceable action movie at best, but when you realize the caliber of the team behind it and how much potential it had, it starts to look even more disappointing. The performances are nothing to write home about, the story is casting too wide of a net, and the action is pretty standard aside from a couple of fleeting moments. Tom Hardy does his best while he's out there kicking ass and taking names, but the film's disjointed feel makes it hard to care about anything other than the few action scenes that we get. Havoc gets a Sully score of 2.5 stars. So that's my review of the latest action film. What do you think your all-time favorite from the genre is? I think I have to go with Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.